Thanks for tuning in to Uncut. I'm Allie. I play at UNC, and this is Marie McCool. Used to be my teammate. So,
Hey, Kara.
Kara. All right. Well, let's just jump right in. So, hold on. Oops. So, to get started, Uncut is lucky to have Marie McCool with us, who is probably the most decorated player in UNC lacrosse's history. A two-time, and there's probably a million more accolades that you have. So, 2-time Sporting Award finalist, 3-time All-ACC, 3-time first-team All-American, 2-time ACC Midfielder of the Year, national champion, world champion, professional lacrosse player. So, we've got a star here with us today, so we're lucky to have you.
Oh, well, thank you, Al, and I'm really excited to be here, so thank you for having me. I've been following you guys on Instagram, and I think it's awesome. I was like, dang, I wish that, we had something like this when I was there, because it's just so great to see really just like an inside scoop on the student athletes' lives and everything at UNC and in Chapel Hill. So thanks for having me. I'm honored.
No problem. Oh, Trainer Trey is here. We're both New Jersey natives too, so we have that in common.
Yes.
So do you want to just start us off by telling us what you've been doing in this time in quarantine, trying to stay busy?
Yeah, I mean, so I live right outside of Manhattan, and so I actually left like really before everything shut down and when there were still only like 50 to 100 confirmed cases, so probably a lot more. And I escaped to upstate New York, so I'm still here. It's a little chilly, but really just like I am keeping busy, very, very busy. My days are filled with activities, whether it's work or Zooming with doing virtual clinics, doing Instagram lives, Zooming with my family, friends. And so, yeah, it's been good. And I'm also obviously trying to exercise as much as possible. I think one of the really hard parts about being an athlete is we're used to having like a very structured lifestyle, and we're on a routine, and we have our coaches there to support us, and not having that support right then and there. And it's more a lot of virtual stuff and coaches writing up plans for us that we have to kind of be creative with on how we are incorporating different workouts in our routine and stuff has been hard, but just trying to change it up and be creative as much as possible. So yeah, that's really what my life is consisted of. Lots of walks with my dog.
Yeah, I've been seeing that. So I know you touched on your like virtual lacrosse clinics. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that's been going?
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, I started doing virtual lacrosse clinics with the PLL Academy, and I'm doing like everything from shooting, dodging, draw controls. And I mean, it's been awesome. I think that I've learned a lot from it too myself on like how I can really go into details. It's forcing me to think more about the details on certain things, because you're not there to physically see the players actually do it right in front of you. And so you have to spend a little bit more time on instruction. And I think it's really made me realize like how much lacrosse is like very detail oriented, and there's a bunch of different things that you can do at home with very limited resources. And so it's been great. And I think just like overall, I know the girls want to learn and keep the stick in their hands as much as possible, but I think really most of them are just so excited to have like an hour of their week dedicated to like lacrosse with girls across the country, and someone that they look up to. So I think that it's been a really like awesome, very eye-opening experience.
Yeah, it's really cool that you get to do that. I might have to hop on one of these.
I know. I was like, I should hop on in one of my friends to learn like other things that I can do too, because there's just so many different things that you can learn from each other, especially during these times, whether it's a teammate on the US team or another collegiate player. It's great. I think we all come from different areas and different backgrounds and grew up doing different things with different coaches, that there's just so much that we can feed off of each other with.
Yeah, and it's just really cool that you guys are taking advantage of this time. It's easy to just sit back and take a break from lacrosse and everything going on, but to see you guys trying to get out there and get people to keep playing is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So with that, like, how has your mindset shifted from since the season was canceled? How's all that been?
So I think like the hardest part is that as athletes, we are always focused and working towards like something that's in like the near future and something that like we know is going to happen. So for example, like when we go home for summer break, like we know that in a few months we're going back to school and it's going to be fall ball, we're going to have fall tournaments, and then it's the season. And so I think like that's the difference between that break versus a break where you just really don't know what's next. And that's really hard. And so it's really made me shift my mindset and perspective on life in general. Like, first of all, I've reflected on like how lucky I've been for all of the things that I've had in my life leading up to this point, because there are a lot of people out there that are going through much worse. And so anytime I start to think negatively about anything, I'm like, Marie, stop, like list 3 things that you're grateful for. And it really has helped me. And it sounds a little like cliche, but like I never really like, my mindset really never was like that. And so I'm just trying my best to stay as positive as possible, because it is hard. And I think that like it's also okay for everyone watching and the young girls to know that like it's okay to be stressed out. Like these are very uncertain times, and uncertainty, like it is so stressful. And for me, like I said earlier, I'm so used to having a routine and like knowing what's next. It's stressful. However, it's how you react to that situation and what you make out of it that's important. And so that's really how my mindset has shifted.
Going off that, how have you been training, and like what things have been keeping you motivated to get through this?
So my teammates have really been the ones that are keeping me motivated on the US team and WPLL level, because I like wake up every morning and I see Taylor Cummings work out and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a hard workout. I'm rolling out of bed now. Like now I gotta go do it. And like they're also like the people that I play for every day, like my teammates, my coaches, my family, our fans. And so they're really the ones that are really like inspiring me to keep doing what I'm doing in order to stay in shape and be the best that I can be and stay motivated, even though I don't know what's next. And so, and especially like the young girls who like are, you know, who aspire to be us one day, like they're constantly commenting on my Instagrams, like, oh, I love this workout, like I'm gonna try it, like, or DMing me like, do you have any different like stick work drills that you could like show me? I'm struggling, like not being able to practice with my friends, like I need help. And like that just motivates me even more, because like I just love seeing that all these girls are so passionate about getting better, and they look up to people like me, and I love just being an inspiration for them and trying to use my platform as much as possible in order to inspire that next generation of girls. And so that's really what's keeping me motivated during these times.
Yeah, that's awesome. And kind of a few more questions with the pandemic. I know it's like exhausting talking about it all the time, but how has your job been affected, and are you working from home? How is that all going?
So I am working from home. I typically work from home anyway. So even though like I worked from home before, it's still been such a huge like transition for me, because I also travel a lot for like lacrosse clinics and stuff. And so it's been definitely different. And so I don't know, like for people who are watching and don't know me, I work at Quest Diagnostics too, which is a lab. And so with COVID-19, it's been super crazy. And I work with professional teams and sports leagues and other organizations related to that. And so right now, like obviously we're trying to figure out like what the best plan of attack is moving forward, because I think America needs sports right now. But with that being said, there are very like, we know that the frontline workers and patients who are sick and need testing, they're the first priority, and we all understand that and are fully on board with that. It's just a matter of when will we have the capacity to help, and when can we start to get things moving in the right direction. And so that's my day job, and it's been crazy. And then I also have Zooms and stuff with the clinics and everything. And so my days have been busier than they were before working from home, which is kind of crazy. I think people have the opposite, but mine's been busier.
Well, you touched on how your job is pretty flexible with you and your lacrosse career. So generally speaking, aside from the lockdown and pandemic, how has it been balancing your professional lacrosse career and a job?
So it's definitely tough, but absolutely doable. I think my first year it was the hardest because like I missed lacrosse so much, and so like I would work and be like, what am I doing? Like what is this? It's just such like a different lifestyle because I'm used to playing lacrosse like my entire life, and that's it. And I only have like a very short season and then a World Cup every 4 years, and so it was definitely a hard balance in that sense. I wouldn't say like work wise and time management wise it was the worst for me because I was used to that from like the student athlete life. Like it prepares you so much for that. Like it was nothing because I'm used to going to class, which I'll consider class like similar to my professional career, being a student, and then going to practice and going to lift in the morning, and then waking up and then doing your homework and studying, and then waking up, repeat, then traveling on the weekends for games. So it was very like the student athlete life prepares you so well for that life. It was more just like me adjusting to not playing what I love and have done my entire life every single day.
Yeah, and that's just such a blessing thing that we have, just being able to use our student athlete experience into the real world. And I think a lot of people don't realize that advantage that we do have until they're faced with it. So what advice do you have for athletes that are hoping to make this transition?
I think my biggest advice, mainly for people who maybe don't have a job yet, is not to stress out about it right away, because I was someone who really didn't know what I still don't know what I want to do in my life, and I'm figuring that out for myself. But I mean, being a student athlete it like prepares you so much for the real world, and it's insane. And I had heard that like from so many different people while I was at Carolina. And I was like, yeah, like I get it. But you don't really realize it until you actually live in it. You're like working on these teams with people who did not play sports, who never played sports and were a part of a team, and you're like, oh my gosh, as a captain I would never allow that. Like he's being such a bad teammate, like we're all in this together. Like I catch myself like thinking these things as if we were playing in a team environment. And I'm like, that would never, like we would never accept that at Carolina. Like that is ridiculous, that is so selfish. And so I think it's just so crazy how transferable it really is. And you as an athlete bring so many intangibles to the for a job, and you're like going into and transitioning into a new role that you aren't really aware of until you actually live that. So just own that, especially in like the application process and when you're trying to look for a job and interviewing. You might not on paper have the experiences that are relatable to that specific job, like previous sales experience, previous experience at an internship at a financial company. Like I never had that because I was competing for a World Cup, which I wouldn't trade for anything. That's like an internship in itself, just being a student athlete. Because like I said, like they cannot teach you how to be a good leader, how to be a good teammate, how to communicate effectively. There's a difference between communication and effective communication, and we learn that from being student athletes. And you bringing that to the table is so important. They can teach you all of the other little small skills that you need to learn in order to be successful on the job. So we're really just have that foundation that you know these leaders in a workplace are looking for. And my biggest advice is just use that as much as possible when you're telling your stories to these people who are interviewing you, or just, you know, networking with, if you're networking with them, like use that to the as much as you can.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really great advice that I think all athletes should be listening to.
Yeah, it's stressful, like so stressful. And I was very like, I remember when I was like, yeah, I know everyone keeps telling me this, but like I keep interviewing and no one's responding back. Like it's not gonna be the first, like you're not gonna get the first. It's gonna take some time, but it'll get there and things will work out and everything does happen for a reason. So just know that what you bring to the table for being a student athlete, not only in general, but also at one of the top academic and athletic institutions in the country, is so special.
Yeah. So now shifting to your experience at Carolina, what were some of your best memories on and off the field?
Oh, okay. So I think on the field, probably winning a national championship my sophomore year. I mean, nothing beats that. And what makes it even better is that we were underdogs. And I think like being an underdog where no one believes in you and coming out on top is just such an indescribable feeling. And we were really the only ones that believed that we were going to win that day. And that was all that mattered. We didn't need the outside world to believe that. We didn't care. And we put a performance on the field that was so amazing. And we won by a lot and crushed them. And so it was so great. But I mean, like, all of my memories, ACC championships, everything. But like off the field, I think just all of the relationships that I've made from Carolina would probably be like, I know that's not like a single memory, but those are relationships that will last a lifetime and something that I'll cherish. Um, and again, like, it's brought so many different opportunities to me on a personal and professional level that I truly believe would have never happened without UNC and Carolina athletics. And I think that's really just the biggest thing off the field, just the relationships, opportunities, and friendships that came out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember I was in high school and I watched that game. I was like a senior, so I was incoming next year and I watched it. I was like, oh my God, like this is what I get to come into.
I know.
It's so exciting. I know. Well, next year, I guess.
Yes, 2021.
I know. Well, do you want to go off that and talk about your experience with like the world team and like winning a World Cup and all that? Like, can you just tell us what that's like?
Yeah. So after we won the national championship, then I ended up that year making the World Cup team and training for the World Cup the following summer after that. And it was, again, like another indescribable feeling. I think just like putting on the red, white, and blue and being able to represent your country is something that like I never would have thought I'd be able to do. And so I think just like it was so surreal to me when I made that team. And just going off of that, my freshman year, I struggled a little bit, both academically and athletically, because it was a huge adjustment for me. And then things started to fall into place. And I remember Phil, in the middle of the season, Phil Barnes, our assistant coach, told me that I should apply to try out for the U.S. team. And I was like, Phil, you're like, no, you're crazy. And he was like, I mean, it's a great experience. It doesn't matter if you make it or not. Like, you get to compete with some of the best players in the world for one weekend, and like, why not? And I was like, okay, he's right, why not? And so I tried out, and then I remember like I just had no expectations or anything and no fear, and that made me play better because I wasn't like nervous or anything. And that's when, like, the second day of tryouts, I remember calling my mom. I was like, Mom, I think I can actually like do this. Like, I think I have a shot. And I ended up making the team, and I got cut after that for the 24 roster the following year, but then ended up making the World Cup team. But like, I honestly don't think I would have made the World Cup team if like Phil didn't tell me to try out, or if I didn't say like, okay, I'll do it. And so that was really like the kind of the turning point for me, and something that like the moral of the story is like, don't back down from something just because you feel like you're not good enough, because like you can do anything that you put your mind to. You just are you're the only one standing in your way. And that was me. Like, I was like, no, I can't do it. Like, I was the only one who was standing in my way from trying out that year. And so I'm super, super happy I did. And that was definitely like a lesson for me as well, just to know that, all right, like, it's okay to have like far reach goals in mind, and set those goals, because it gives you something to work to for the future as well. But yeah, that's my USA story. But it's a great feeling, and hopefully I can suit up with them next summer as well for the World Cup. And yeah, hopeful for that.
Yeah, and I just want to mention, so for the people that are watching at home, don't be afraid to put in your questions for Marie. But don't listen to Jill or Alex about embarrassing stories about me. So yeah, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to put them in there, and we'll get to them. This touches on one that somebody actually asked. We've been talking to a lot of soccer alumni, and they've mentioned that Anson Dorrance has shared a lot of wisdom and character development for them. So is there anything that Coach Levy or Phil or any of your coaches that they've said that has stuck with you?
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing that sticks with me, that like I visualize Jenny say it every time it comes out of my mouth, is be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's like one of her most favorite phrases. And I think it's so powerful, because like the only way that you're gonna get better at something is if you take risks. And if you're not comfortable in those uncomfortable situations, it's going to be really hard to get better at things. And you have to fail like again, another cliche, like failure leads to success. It's true. And if you're not comfortable in these uncomfortable situations, it's really, really hard to then go on an upward trajectory to your end goal. And so I think that that's something that's always stuck with me from Jenny. And again, I always hear her voice in my head with that. So yeah, that's like one of the biggest pieces of advice that I've heard. It's so simple and but so powerful.
Yeah, for sure. So what was your major at UNC and what was your favorite class?
My major was management and society, and I think my favorite class was, I mean, like, I had a lot of classes that I enjoyed because they were, like, fun, I guess, but I think, like, the first class that came to mind, I don't know why, but it was this, like, social stratification class that also touched on, it was a sociology class. I think it was the numbers, I think it was 427 or 410, something like that. But Ted Mao was my professor. He is awesome. I highly suggest anyone, even if you're not a management society major, to take his class. But the reason why it was my favorite class is because I always hated participating in class, like absolutely hate it. For someone who has like a really big mouth and like is out there and a pretty open book, like participating in classes and public speaking is not my thing. And
That's surprising.
so
I would never think that.
I remember like after the first class, I was like, he said, this is a discussion based class and you should be participating every class. Sorry, I'm just plugging my phone in. You should be participating every class. And like, it's just like, we give you an assignment, you read it, you answer some questions, and then it's all like a round table discussion. And I was like, I'm out. I'm not taking this class. Bye. And then like, I was like, all right, I need this class for my major. I just want to get it over and done with. I'll do it. And then I ended up absolutely loving it. And it made me like so much more comfortable in a situation that I was previously uncomfortable in. And like there was like 70 people in the class. Like it wasn't a small discussion based class. And I like ended up he called on people, but I ended up raising my hand and contributing. But basically like we did readings at nighttime and like for homework, and then we would come the next morning and talk about the articles that we read. But it was really about just the United States and how different jobs vary, and just really like going very deep into like the social aspect of different careers and talking about that, whether it's like their lives, whether it's like, I'm trying to think like as an example so I can explain it. Like we talked about lawyers and how they spend a lot on law school, but they don't end up making it back throughout their career, and that a lot of them don't even end up continuing to be a lawyer after they have a bunch of debt from law school. We talk about nail salons and how the system is pretty corrupt, and so it's just a whole bunch of different like careers that may seem so glamorous to us, but there's so much going on. We talked about Goldman Sachs and suicide rates. So it was an interesting class, but I love the discussion roundtable aspect of it. That was a long answer, but
that's all right. And on the topic of academics, and like, what kind of advice do you have for current or future student athletes on balancing the academics and athletics that come with being a student athlete?
Yeah, I mean, it's like your academics are just as important, if not even more important than your athletic career. They're both important, but you know, you don't know if you're not gonna be able to play sports for the rest of your life. And unfortunately, I wish that we could, but it's really important to make sure that you're prioritizing the things that you need to prioritize and managing your time. And that's like the biggest thing. Like, do not procrastinate because it'll bite you in the butt. And that's something that I did my freshman year, being like fully transparent. Like I struggled big time because I just wasn't used to the transition, and like I did party a lot, like flat out I did my freshman year. And so I wasn't prioritizing athletics or academics. Like I was going out with my friends, and like I think it's important for me to say that because like for me, I don't know if people on the outside would like peg me who don't know me, like you guys know me, like they see this like athlete who is so dedicated and motivated, but like there have been times where like I am not invincible, and I made mistakes and I like struggled a bit, but like I'm so happy about that because I've learned so much from them and it's helped me grow as an individual. But yeah, I think back to your academic question, just like make sure you're managing your time and know that it's just as important to focus on that as it is your athletics. And it's hard and it's an adjustment, but if you can really manage your time and focus on what you need to do and not procrastinate and prioritize things, then you will, and work hard, then it will be a breeze.
Mm-hmm. So as we can see in this Instagram live, you have a lot of fans, you have a lot of love, there's a lot of hearts flying on the screen, and you're a huge name in the lacrosse world. So what's it like to take on that role, and what do you hope people can learn from you? That's our question from Luke.
I mean, it's definitely like such a humbling experience because it's not one that I'd ever thought that it's not a position that I ever thought that I'd be in. When I was a young girl, I, loved sports and was a really competitive kid and knew I wanted to play at the highest level possible, but I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know what the highest level possible was for lacrosse because I wasn't really exposed to the sport that much and to, female lacrosse players. And so it's just been so amazing to provide, to use my platform to, provide someone for these younger girls to look up to, because again, I didn't really have that. And I think like I wake up every day and like I said earlier, like if I'm ever thinking negatively, like they're the ones that keep me going every day, are the little girls that all look up to me and aspire to be me one day. And I think it's just so important for us to continue to use our platforms in order to inspire the next generation of female athletes, in order to keep female in sport, keep that participation rate up, and for lacrosse, get lacrosse to where it needs to be, because I think we've made a lot of progress over the past couple of years, but I think there's just so much more progress to be made, but it's all been positive. But yeah, our job is not finished, and there's a lot we need to do for all those girls, and so it's been a really great, awesome experience.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And as we start to wrap up here, do you have any advice for athletes in this time without sports?
Yeah, my advice would just be to, try and, I think like a lot of people are journaling right now and like writing down things. My advice is just like try and think of how you can turn a lot of these negatives into positives. And I know that that's like very hard and a lot easier said than done, especially like I said, athletes are very like type A people who are in routine, and this is not sticking to our routine, and there's a lot of uncertainty, so it's hard. But my advice is just stay positive as much as possible. And if you're having trouble doing that, like it's okay to, be stressed, but think about all the things that you're grateful for. And I know that that's really helped me during this time. And it has honestly changed my whole perspective on life. And I think like it'll have a very long lasting impact on me, because I just really, my mindset was a lot different before all of this. And as much as what's going on right now is so unfortunate and hard, and there's been like a lot of lives that are lost and people's lives have been impacted tremendously in terrible ways. I think that a lot of us can use this for future, for us to really help shift our mindset and perspective on life that we didn't have before.
Yeah, definitely. We'll just go to there's a few questions that people have popped in the comments. So who are your heroes?
I would say probably like my sister, because I didn't really have a lacrosse player to look up to. Like Katrina Dowd and Taylor Cummings, Katie Schwartzman, when I was in high school, they were like people who I looked up to, because I was able to finally watch them and see them and look like how amazing they were. But like growing up, I didn't have that. And so I would say my sister, she's 4 years older than me, and I actually taught her how to play lacrosse, but more from like just the way that she tackles life in general. She's one of the most generous people I've ever met. She is a teacher, and so she's using that to give back and provide education for those in a community that it hasn't always been great. So the district that she teaches in, and she works with kids that have learning disabilities, and she's an intervention specialist. And so she's just such a caring, passionate person, and she also works her butt off. And so I think like just watching her at a young age really motivated me to be like that as well. And it gave me someone to kind of model like my life off of after watching just her work ethic and everything when she was in sports as well, because she was a 3-sport athlete. And yeah, so my sister Erica.
That's awesome. So Giada, who is a fellow New Jersey lacrosse player, she asked, at what age did you know your goal was to play lacrosse at UNC?
So going back to what I just said about not really having a role model in the like sports world, like a professional athlete growing up, Mia Hamm was like my only one and the only one I knew of. And so I thought I was going to play soccer at UNC. I thought I was going to be the next Mia Hamm. And so I always wanted to go to the UNC, and I was also a huge like sports fan. So Michael Jordan, like I knew he went there, and I was like, oh, I want to go to UNC. All the good athletes go there. Like that's what I want to do. And then when I got a lacrosse stick for Christmas, I instantly fell in love, started to play lacrosse. And then in middle school, I think like I kind of was like, I mean, I'd love to go to UNC, but like there's no way I'm good enough for that. And I just was like, well, like I'm obviously still going to work hard to be the best that I can be, but I want to set like realistic goals and expectations for myself, because I think that's important too. You know, you want to have a reach goal, you want to have realistic goals, and you want to have small goals that you can meet on the way to those bigger ones. And so I started reaching out to in high school, I started reaching out to all different schools. So I did reach out to UNC, but I made sure that I was reaching out to D3 schools, like 20 to 30 ranked schools, still 15 to 20 ranked schools, just like the whole board, across the whole board. And then when UNC contacted me, I was like so ecstatic. I was like, this has been my dream school forever. And I visited, and it was an amazing visit, but it was my first visit, but I still wanted to keep my options open, because I think like you need to make sure that you're making the right decision for yourself. And at such a young age, I didn't know what that was. Yes, UNC was my dream school, but I think I needed to look around a little bit more. But after looking around, like I just had my heart set on it. So that was, I mean, I guess like when I was little, to short answer to that question, it was my dream school because for soccer. And then lacrosse in high school, when I got recruited, I knew immediately after stepping on campus that that's where I wanted to spend 4 years at.
Yeah, that's actually interesting, because it kind of is funny how you kind of shaped what it meant to be the lacrosse player in New Jersey for me. I remember I was in like middle school, and I would see you in the newspaper, and it's like, oh, teacher at UNC. I'm like, okay, so like that's what it's gonna take. And it's just like funny now that we're like friends and like teammates and stuff. So it's kind of cool how you have inspired me as much as you've inspired all these little girls.
Thanks, Al. Us Jersey girls stick together.
Exactly. Well, if there's not any more questions from the comments, we can wrap this up. But thank you so much on behalf of Uncut. We're so happy to have you, and this was awesome. And thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for having me. It is an honor to be featured on this with all the other amazing athletes that you guys have had on your Instagram lives and everything. So thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Well, stay safe. I hope you're doing well. And thank you again. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. You too. Thanks, Al. Miss you.
Bye. Miss you too.
Bye.
Bye.